In just a minute, we're going to be getting another coaching session from Camel Connection. Let's go milk. Shall we? Let's go this way. Got about 10 minutes to milk a camel before my call. Do I think I can do it in 10 minutes? Yes, I do. Maybe I'm getting a little cocky here. But I'm going to try to milk them first and then do my call. We're going to talk today about camel nutrition, making sure that our Millie here is healthy and getting what she needs. We're not feeding her junk food. Hello, hello, hello. We have learned that can't have grain in afternoon milking, so I'll see you on the other side. All right, milking done. Let's get on the phone with Camel Connection. We're all set. We just finished up milking tonight.
Wow, how'd it go?
It went really good. I'm actually milking all by myself now. Not every time, but certain nights I'm trying it all by myself. I let Solomon on, and what I've done... We got a noisy rooster tonight. I might have to step outside. He's going to be noisy.
I know. I watch your YouTube videos and I'm...
People hate that rooster. They hate it. So I put him, I clip him to a lead and I wrap it around a pole, so I have to just tug on it a little bit and it pulls him out of the way. And he's so trained to our system now. You know, in the beginning, he didn't want anything to do with that.
Yep.
Let me let Millie out here. You going out, Mill? You can go out.
Nice butt, Mill.
There you go. But now he's so good.
Beautiful.
There she is. You wanted to see who we were talking to?
She twitched when you went, even before you actually physically touched her with your hand, she was starting to twitch. Yeah, so that's a good sign, yeah.
We're getting somewhere. All right, that's good. So so he's gotten so trained now to the routine, he doesn't even fight it.
Yeah, well, the thing to remember with camels is they thrive off routine. Is that, like, it might have been a bit messy to start with, but now that they know what to expect from you and you from them, they just thrive off routine. So the only challenge you'll face now is something little has to change, you know, and then they'll have to get used to that. But camels are a very routine animal. You know, I don't know if you notice with your camels, but even they have their own little daily routine when they're not with you. Our camels here, we've got a herd of 9, and they, at certain times, they walk up to the front paddock and, you know, like they sit down to have a nap at a certain time. Like they've got their whole routine sorted out. Yeah. So very, very routine animals. And we always say the easiest way to train a camel is through routine. And also that includes any formal training, like teaching them to sit and all that sort of stuff, is to be really consistent with routines and how you're doing things as well. And it sounds like, Austin, you and your family have done a really great job instinctively just setting up that nice routine for them so that they can actually feel comfortable with you and know what to expect from you. So congrats on that.
You know, that's a lot like cows. Cows thrive on a routine. You know, coming into the barn, getting milked at the same time, leaving at the same time. Now, I haven't noticed with cows them being where they like lay down and take a nap in the sun at the same time or anything like that. But I guess it's gotten us into the routine, and so yeah, it helped with the transition with her. Let me pull her out. She's eating some hay right now. Let me pull a little hay out. And actually, I wanted to show you, because we're going to talk about what they're eating tonight, right, Tara?
Okay.
So I got what they're eating for hay. Let me pull her out in a hay bale out, and then that way she'll be my job. Hey, Mel. She started munching on this hay bale, so I figure I'll just let her munch while we talk.
Yeah.
All right, there you go, hun.
Now she's like, but it's changed spots. I don't want to eat it now.
I know, after you just talked about how important it is to like stick to a routine. She's like, didn't you hear your mentor? Are you listening? This is a first cutting here. So I actually gave her the selection of the three, the alfalfa, the first cutting alfalfa, the first cutting, the second cutting with a little more alfalfa, and then the other first cutting we had. And I couldn't tell if she liked one or the other more.
I knew she'd do that, by the way. I knew she'd go back.
Do it right back.
Typical
like,
camel behavior, like, nah. I could just sense it about her. She's like, this is not acceptable.
This is our Wednesday routine now. We do our Camel Connection chat. She should know.
Yeah. Well, she wasn't really in the last one, so this is her time to shine. But I'd love to. With our first chat, I remember we spoke about the things you must do when you do first get your camel. Things that health-wise, what you should look out for and what you should do. So I think I created a little checklist during that chat. So it'd be good if we could go through that, because feeding them is one thing, but what if what you're feeding them they're not utilizing properly because you haven't done all the other checklist things? So I think talking about those things are really important, because obviously you could just be feeding her and yet her body's not fully utilizing those things because she's a bit imbalanced in her body, whether that be minerals, whether that be parasites and all this sort of stuff.
Okay, great.
So the whole idea with feeding camels is to get them, because they're a desert animal, and their bodies are designed to 100% utilize everything that goes in. So they've got 3 stomachs, and I believe cows have 4. And so they got to utilize, and as you know, their drop-ins are like, they've got almost no moisture in them whatsoever unless they're unwell.
So nice, by the way. Cleaning up after camels in the dry lot is like awesome.
There's been no studies on this, but one lady in Australia swears by it, that she's a massive gardener. She uses camel poo in her garden, her veggie garden, and she swears that it actually helps prevent the weeds from growing, and she had a whole theory around it. So yeah, that's something to Google anyway. So
we'll try it.
Yeah, so I think like we've used camel poo on the garden as well, but because it's got no moisture in it, it gets harder and harder and harder. So I think what you'd have to do is put it in a barrel with a bit of moisture and let it ferment a little bit and then spread it on the garden, so you don't just get round balls in your garden. Yeah.
Well, we'll try it. We have some raised beds. We've been putting rabbit poop in it, and I've been joking with people when they see the camel poop that we have really big rabbits, so we'll go and give it a shot.
Absolutely. Yeah, just break it down first so that it's a bit of moisture so that it actually releases all that good stuff in there.
Got it.
So, yeah, the camel's designed to utilize everything that goes in their bodies. So whether that be for instant energy, so for her, because she's milking, she would need that energy to feed her young and also, to provide you guys milk. So she's putting out a lot of energy. So the trick with those sort of situations with milking camels is you want to make sure that they're not just putting out, that they're actually able to put out, but also to reserve things for themselves. So their weight is a really important thing to manage. So at the moment, her hump size is really good. And a way to tell, and you can go up and touch her with this, Austin, if a hump is in good condition, is if you... So there's three things to look for. If you touch the hump and it's like solid as a rock, and like use your thumb and you kind of squish it a bit and it's solid as a rock, that generally means they're overweight. Like they're obese. They're too fat. Now if you, so go, in the middle there. Yep. And so if you touch it and a little bit squishy, then that means they're probably at an ideal weight. If you touch it and it's super squishy, that means that they're losing weight. So what are you feeling?
Right now, I would describe this. She's definitely not solid as a rock. There's a little bit of give. I feel like it's almost like if you took a basketball or a soccer ball or something and you just kind of pushed on it. There's not a lot of give, just a little bit, but it's definitely not solid as a rock.
So that's good news for her because that means she's maintaining her weight quite well. If it was really soft and squishy, that would mean that she needs probably a different feeding plan to try and keep that weight on her. And the folks that are watching at home, you can see when Austin, like you can kind of look at from afar and like, oh, that hump looks really big, but like half of it is wool. So, you know, like that's why it's really important to touch it, is because a lot of that, like there's a couple of inches of wool there, do you think?
Let me see. So yeah, I mean, there's definitely, if you pushed in solid inch or inch and a half, solid 2 inches of wool there. And on the top?
Yeah.
On the top, oh yeah, there's a lot on the top.
Yeah.
And interestingly enough, that you will notice that most of the wool is actually on the hump. Like they do get woolly in other places. They accumulate most of their wool on top of their hump because the hump is their reserve, their fat reserve. So I'm sure you guys listening now on this channel, and Austin, I know you know, is their hump is full of fat. It's not full of water. It's not like a big water bag or anything like that. The hump converts the fat converts to energy, so aka food, and water, you know, H2O. So the camels can do both those things with the hump. So when a camel is, and this is why the feel of the hump is so important, because when a camel's not well, you can kind of feel it, and if it's super squishy, well, you know that they're using their reserves, which they're designed to, but in her situation, you want to try and keep, you know, if she was out in her own environment in the wilderness, she'd be eating all day, lots of high protein stuff, lots of green leaves, and you know, anything she can browse on with trees and things like that. So she'd be eating all the green stuff.
When you're feeling for this spot, is it more of the top where it flattens out, or is it like the side?
Yeah, right where you're touching now, on the side.
Okay. The top feels a little bit more, there's a little bit more give in the top, but in the side, it's pretty much the way I describe it. It's not solid as a rock, but there's a little bit of give. So it sounds like it's pretty good. If I'm a good judge, but I wish I had like good camel, bad camel, in the middle camel, like Goldilocks. If I could try all three, then I'd know a little better, but oh well.
Yeah, I know. Well, we have visuals of underweight camels in our camel husbandry ebook. There's one that's, you know, got a massive hump and one that's sort of developing a hump. So
that was helpful.
Yeah, so that's sort of a little visual. Actually, if you folks want to see a really underweight camel, we did a YouTube video about proper parasite control, and one of our camels has a god-awful disease. It's not contagious. It's just one of those things that happen. Long story about that. But yeah, he's got osteodystrophy, which is also called big head, which is common in cows and horses as well as camels. And definitely one of the most common diseases in camels is osteodystrophy. We see it a lot in Australia and the United States. A lot of it has to do with nutrition, possibly genetics. Nobody's done any proper studies on it. But yeah, we show a camel that is very sick, and his hump is like, you know, just maybe like, it looks like a horse. He's got a flat back. You can see his spine. So obviously their spines aren't curved. They've got flat spines. So yeah, he's very underweight.
So right off the bat, I would say with Millie, it seems like she's got a good hump. But knowing that she's pregnant, is there anything, or hoping that she's pregnant, is there anything else we would be looking for to tell us she's doing good as far as her body goes?
Yeah.
We are about to talk about the danger of parasites and how bad they can be for camels and what we can do to make sure we're on top of that. But first, we have a very short Camel Train shout out for you. Today's Camel Train shout out goes to August. August is new to homesteading and is going to be starting this summer. So August, congratulations on getting started. That's a big first step, is just starting the homestead process. So have fun with that. Thank you for joining the Homesteady Camel Train. Your one-of-a-kind t-shirt is on its way. You cannot be a Camel Train member anymore, but you still can be a Homesteady Pioneer if you want access to all the bonus content like the Camel Train members get. Click right there to become a Homesteady Pioneer. Let's get back into our discussion about camel parasites. We're hoping that she's pregnant. Is there anything else we would be looking for to tell us she's doing good as far as her body goes?
Yeah.
As soon as you buy a camel, regardless of what the prior owners say, you get them tested for parasites. 110% every time. Because everyone has a different parasite control program and they have different vets, and you don't know if their vets are doing the proper test, because there is a proper, it's not just the McMaster's float test that camels need. They actually need a whole other test, because the worms the parasites don't show up in the normal test that horses and cows would have normally. So going back into our camel husbandry ebook, we have a whole parasite control program. Like, this is what you need to ask your vet to do to test for parasites. So I would get her tested. So all you need to do is collect a poo sample and take it to your vet and request the test that we lay out in our camel husbandry ebook. For those listening, you can get that on our website at our shop. Get a sample of hers and a sample of the calf. And then you have a complete understanding of what's going on parasitic wise in her body and in little Solomon's body too.
Now, again, the previous owner did actually say, as he was bringing them, he did a worming course, but I think it's good. I mean, you tell me, we learn this a lot with our goats and with our cows. The best way to maintain or to work with animals and worms is to actually continually see what their load is, what your treatment is actually doing. So our vet suggested at least every other month checking. Do you guys suggest keep on checking for worms?
Absolutely. I know Margie has the same advice, is that Margie even says once a month, just to keep checking. And you guys, if you've got so many animals, it is so easy to DIY. If you've got
chickens.
Oh, so funny. You could do a whole soundtrack. So yeah, you can DIY your own poo samples, and if you're a person that wants to commit that time to that, it's simple. It's so easy to do. There's YouTube tutorials on it. Eventually I'd love to upload a specific camel test that we recommend that you ask your vet to do to the Cameleer Academy membership, because it's so important just to know that stuff, and it is really simple to do. And it's a bit scientific, so if you like putting your scientist hat on, it's always a bit fun. So yeah, that's something you guys might want to discuss, like, do we want to do our own, or are we happy to outsource it still? So yeah. So in Australia, in the States, when we were there a couple of years ago, I think it was about $50. The vet that was talking to us, she's also a camel vet in the States. She's a bit more harder to access because she specializes in equine, and camels are sort of a secondary thing for her, but still very knowledgeable. So I can definitely give you her contacts as well. She's
that'd be great.
In touch with. But Margie's sort of more reliable in getting back to you and all that sort of stuff. And she said it was about $50 or $30 to $50 that she can do this particular test for. In Australia, we pay $100 a camel.
Wow.
So yeah, and we're actually really lucky. And we've got 9 camels. But so we're going to start doing our own. But at this point in time, we've actually we're in partnership with the university that's doing a whole study about camel and camel parasites. So they're doing it for free, which is great.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
The parasites. Yeah. So get that retested again.
Okay. Check that.
Yeah. And you got to know what's on your property, and you probably have an idea about that with the other animals that you do have. Yeah.
We did have barber pole issues. So we definitely know there's that. And we've had, Pennsylvania's got a lot of worms, and we had a very wet season last year. And I think I've told you this before when we did our long interview, we did have issues with our goats with the worms. So we're taking this really seriously. We got them already checked, and now we'll just be waiting to find out where are they at, and then Is there anything in their diet that you can use as preventative before we get into, you know, deworming and all that? Is there anything you suggest to just make sure they have anyway?
Yeah, so like it's again, this is no actual studies done on this, but for any listeners that have actually read any Pat Colby books about, you know, natural goat care, natural horse care, or natural cow care, she has a specific mineral mix. Now I can't remember if it's exactly the same as the one we recommend, but we've sort of formulated it for the camel. So which has got the dolomite in it, it's got the copper sulfate in it, it's got the yellow sulfate, it's got seaweed in it. Now the copper sulfate is supposed to be known in other species to help keep parasites at bay. So what we recommend in our camel husbandry ebook, here's a sneak peek, is, yeah, obviously you've got this mineral mix that you mix up for your camels, which has the copper sulfate in it. And also, or I should say, you can, if you have your camels drinking, or your animals in general, it can be for all animals, drinking from a trough, you know, not like we call it a dam, I think you guys call it a pond. Then you can actually, if they're drinking from a trough, then you can put like a small bar of, you know, copper pipe, just like put a small bar, like get it from the hardware store, and put that in their water, and that will just slowly release over the time. And then people get really worried because, oh, copper is really toxic for animals and especially for camels. And we're like, we get that, but the thing with the copper sulfate in the mineral mix is that dolomite actually balances out, because there's way more dolomite than there is copper sulfate, that actually balances out the toxicity of the mineral. Hello, beautiful. Oh, I love her.
She's being very a little more friendly than usual tonight.
But she feels the energy. Honestly, camels are so sensitive. She knows we're talking about her. I know that 100%. Maybe she's like, yeah, you should get that proper poo test done for me.
We'll do it. We'll get you, Mel.
So yeah, we're looking at the copper. It's safe, you know, in small quantities, and that's what we're recommending to feed her. It doesn't look, you know, and I can sort of hear the audience talking back. Oh, does that mean I can do organic practices with my camels? It's likely that you're not going to be able to do that because of the sensitivities that camels have to parasites. If you figure one out, please let us know, but you could be risking, you know, a lot of things there, including your camel's health. The only organic practice that you can use for camels to prevent parasites is if they're out in the desert, in their natural environment, they're constantly, look at her, like she's loving on you. Oh my God. This is beautiful, by the way, seeing this, because obviously we'll go back to that. Okay. But first, yeah, if they're in their natural environment, the parasitic burden on wild camels in their natural environment is zero. They just don't have it. So unless you've got that perfect ideal setup, it's likely that you're going to have to use chemicals to manage these parasites.
You know, we talked about that a lot when we were dealing with issues with our goats, and telling people that agriculture is, we say this a lot on our channel. We love trying to mimic nature as much as possible, but agriculture is not nature. Camels in the wild have lots of land. They're all high brows. They get to just walk away from the worms. And any animal that does get wormy just would die, and that gene pool would kind of stop. But agriculture is different. People will keep an animal that's more susceptible to genes or to worms. Maybe they got really good dairy genetics, and so they keep breeding that line and just keep nursing it along. Or like us, you don't have a huge fenced-in area. They're just in a small area. Now we're eventually going to get them up in our field and up doing some browse. But right now they're just in a little dry lot area. And so it is, you know, we'd like to do as much preventative, as much with diet, but if it comes down to it, we're going to treat for worms because we're not going to lose our camels to that. So that's really good advice. Awesome. Thanks, Tara.
Okay.
We'll see you next week.
Have a good night.
All right, you too.
Bye.
Bye. Camel Connection has been a huge resource. We always say when you're getting into livestock, find a good mentor. it is hard to find a good camel mentor because in where I live, nobody has camels. The beautiful thing about the internet is you can find mentors like Camel Connection if you're getting into camels, but whatever you're getting into, you can find mentors over the internet. So if you are interested in camels, click there to follow their channel. They got some great resources, and check out their website. You can get a free ebook too. Awesome people. This has been really helpful in making our progress with our camels.